Hello there, fellow synthwavers. Julian here from SynthwavePro.com, and in this episode of the Synthwave Pro Music Spotlight, we're going to focus on 5 synthwave artists as well as deep dive into some of their tracks. Now, if you wish to hear their music, please use the links in the description. That will take you to the Synthwave Pro Music Spotlight on Spotify. You'll get a chance to hear some of the music that we featured in the first, second, third, and now the 4th episode. And if you wish to check out the podcast, which has a blend of commentary as well as the music that is featured in this episode, I'll leave the links in the description. Before we get started, let's go ahead and smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and consider clicking on the bell notification button. With that being said, let's get started. So let's kick things off with our first artist. His name, Krosia. The song, Azure, or Azure. The track was released in 2018 and it was featured on the Electronic Gems YouTube channel. If you're familiar with that channel, they have some awesome synthwave, retrowave, as well as some chillwave music. The track Azure is laid back and it's powered by a grooving bass line and has some tastefully detuned atmospheric pads. The arrangement has a very smooth flow to it and all the sections make sense. Let's get a little more into the intro. It does feature some high pass filtering. I like that technique as you sort of cut out the low end and then you subsequently bring in the low end. It's sort of like giving your listener insight into the instrumentation of the track. What's interesting is that around the 1 minute mark, the track features a monologue taken from a 1986 movie, classic movie. If you know the name of that movie, you recognize the sample, just leave that comment down below. To date, the track has nearly 3 million plays on Spotify, and this will take us to our second release, specifically an EP called Better Hours. The EP was released in 2021. The Spotify version is 6 songs, but on the vinyl, if you wish to check out the vinyl, you'll get 2 bonus tracks. And those bonus tracks here, they're called Cold Warm, that features John Dunder, and another one is called Spirit, and that features Allison. Allison was featured on the first episode of this podcast. If you're interested, I'll leave the link down below. Let's go a little more into the album. This album, simply titled Better Hours, features some chillwave as well as some synthwave tracks, and it's extremely laid back. Krosia does have a number of releases available on vinyl, thanks in part due to the indie electronic label called Stratford CT or Stratford Court. Now, despite their name, this is a label based in California, and most of the artists on their roster, including Hotel Pools, Eagle Eye Tiger, well, they also have vinyls with special bonus tracks that are unavailable on Spotify. So if you're looking for those gems that no one else has, check out some of the vinyls. I'll leave the links down below if you are interested. This brings us to our second artist, Zane Alexander. I'd like to talk about 2 tracks. Let's start off with Infinity. This is a lo-fi synthwave soundtrack. Released in 2022, this track really caught me by surprise. The intro, let's start off with the intro here. It really does remind me of the PS2 startup sound. I don't know if you guys remember the PS2. Well, once you booted it up, it had this sound effect that would play. I don't know if that's a sort of, homage catering to the, I guess, late 1990s, if not early 2000s, but it does remind me of that. Let me know in the comments if you agree or maybe you don't. The treatment of the low end, the low frequency information, this is what I absolutely love about this track, specifically the bass instrument, the synth bass. Now, he's using a lot of arpeggios at some point during the track, and that's what did it for me. It's nice to get away from the typical sort of like 16 or 8th notes here. He's going up the scale and it sounds extremely musical. This track, Infinity, is extremely layered. There's a lot of stuff going on. Use headphones and it's super atmospheric. With this style of lo-fi synthwave, it's all about sound selection, so knowing the right samples to get that lo-fi quality as well as texture, and Zane Alexander delivers. The YouTube video footage for this video has been manipulated in a way to make it look very lo-fi, low fidelity, and I think it absolutely suits the song. Be sure to listen on headphones because this song is going to take you to another world. Let's move on to a second track of his called Nebula. Nebula is ambient synthwave, and Zane Alexander does a wonderful job of incorporating ambient soundscapes with ethereal synthwave elements. The track features some beautiful chords, lush pads, and the drums are what I would call sparkling. I wish that a lot of artists would venture off into this style of synthwave. It features some elements from ambient, and I think there's a lot of stuff that we can pull from the ambient genre and incorporate incorporate it into synthwave music. Zane Alexander does a wonderful job. The track was released in 2020. I'll be sure to include it in the Synthwave Pro Music Spotlight. Let's move on to our third artist, Lucy in Disguise, whose real name incidentally is Stephen Romeo, a California-based artist. Cool name, by the way. I want to talk about two tracks of his. Let's start off with 1987. Now, this track was released in 2015. It was part of the EP simply titled 1987, and on that EP you can find 5 tracks. Now, to date, that track has garnered close to 6 million streams on Spotify, so quite a few. Wonderful arrangement, and the development, so from section to section, is something I found to be quite strong. The melodic lead line is so infectious that it will have you singing along to it in no time, so beware. Now, where the track shines is how Lucy in Disguise uses a combination of simple and complex sounds to create the narrative. And in the track, he's got these oscillating detune pads that create just the right amount of tension right before dropping that B section. So I thought that was a pretty cool technique. I'll be sure to add this to the playlist if you want to check it out. Let's talk about a second track of his, simply called Echoes in Time. This was released in 2017, so a few years ago. There's some tasteful ambient white noise that you can hear throughout the track, or maybe some vinyl pop, some crackling sounds, and I think it's very titillating to the ear. Kind of reminds me of ASMR if you're into that kind of stuff. I love the reverb that is used in this track. It's very lush, and it gives you a sense of the sort of space that you're in, as well as the openness of the track. To date, the track has over 3.5 million plays on Spotify, so go ahead and check that out. It will definitely be added to the Synthwave Pro Music Spotlight. Let's move on to our fourth artist, simply titled Nightstop. This is from an artist based in Finland, a retrowave artist, I should say, and I want to focus on 2 tracks. So let's start off with Streetwalker. This was released in 2016. It's one of your classic synthwave soundtrack, and it features some very atmospheric synthesizers. Now, I don't know about you, but when I heard the song, I thought, 1984, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, the original movie, the scene when he enters the bar. That's the music that you're listening to right now. It's not, but this is what I think should have been the music. The track has well over 9 million plays on Spotify, and it has a lot of energy, and it features some really excellent guitar work, some nice power chords. So if you're into that kind of stuff, please do check it out. Let's move on to a second track of his, simply titled Drive-By Stalking. Again, a very high energy track, released in 2013, has an infectious lead line, and I like the synth layering in this particular track. Now, there are 2 versions to this track. One of them has a more, I guess you can say, brighter, more aggressive drums. That would be the remastered version. I'll be sure to post up both versions to the playlist. You let me know which one you prefer. So this brings us to our 5th artist, and this is an artist that really impressed me. I was blown away by his production. That would be T120, and the track we're going to talk about is called Rest. So this track is a recent release, 2022. It's a chill wave track with a beautiful melodic lead line. I am digging the overall mix of this track. I think it's warm, I think it's encompassing, it's embracing, and there's some nice oscillating textures that happen about the left and the right channel, so be sure to listen to this using headphones. You don't want to miss out on these details. That's why I urge you to really pay attention on headphones, and it offers just the right amount of that sort of retro, vintage retro vibe, if you will. So be sure to check that out. It is definitely in the playlist today, a happy find, if you will. All right, so if you'd like to make some recommendations as to who you'd like to see next on this spotlight here, go ahead and leave those comments down below. I'll be sure to check that out. And with that said, stay safe, and I'll definitely see you in the next one. Bye for now.